This episode is about Skylar starting to realize that maybe taking up with Ted as a means of escaping this very unpleasant, dysfunctional marriage she has is probably not the best way to go.
Breaking news is I am sleeping with my boss, and I don't know why.
Wow.
Yep. She is so good at sort of keeping herself together. She is a person who puts one foot in front of the other and gets done what has to be done.
I think her anger toward Walt, oddly enough, is starting to ebb.
You want to take her?
Skylar is realizing that maybe she's only really hurting herself.
Even though she's angry with Walt, I think she still has this instinctive protectiveness about him. No matter what happened, he was a good dad, he was a good father.
Unfortunately, this is like two ships passing in the night, because also in this episode at the same time, Walt is angry about her behavior and angry about just how everything's sort of gone to hell in a handbasket.
When you have children, you always have family. They will always be your priority, your responsibility.
He buys into Gus's argument in this episode. Why not make $3 million in 3 months' time? Why not start cooking crystal meth and again become a criminal?
The metamorphosis of this man from a milquetoast kind of person to a hardcore criminal. That's where it's going.
Quite a lot of planning went into this.
I would say so.
In this episode, you have been introduced to something we refer to as the Super Lab. This is an amazing subterranean laboratory built underneath an industrial laundry owned by Gus. Tens of millions of dollars went into engineering and building this hidden laboratory.
Thorium oxide for a catalyst bed.
He's really tempted by this wonderful opportunity, and he indeed winds up saying yes.
I hate to break it to you, Jesse, but our mutual associate was only using you to get to me.
There's a lot of bad blood between these two.
I'm in. You're out.
He kicks kind of Jesse to the curb, so he feels betrayed by everybody.
What was the offer, if I may ask?
That's $3 million for 3 months of my time.
Saul's really looking for the big score.
5.
I'm a reasonable guy. It's a short-term deal. 10 even, but I can't go any lower and still respect myself. 5.
He's just a wheeler dealer.
You're my lawyer, not his. That's the way of the world, kid. Go with the winner.
He's playing a game of Monopoly, really, with people, and it's a big laugh. And he'd like to score, but he doesn't really care what happens to anybody.
He's had it with Walt, and it's nice to see the good old Jesse back.
Hi, I'm Hank Schrader with the Drug Enforcement Administration. We're interested in an RV that's registered to your name and address.
Also in this episode, something very big and dangerous starts to dawn on Hank.
I thought he could turn his life around.
Who are we talking about, Miss Ortega?
My son.
We end this episode with the promise of Hank causing perhaps some real trouble. And that is that Jesse Pinkman, who he busted and brought in briefly last season, is back on Hank's radar. This is a pretty pins and needles kind of episode.
Hi. You're my new lab assistant, I take it?
Yes, I am.
In this episode, we introduce the character of Gail Bedecker.
I suppose you'll want to hear my qualifications.
Gail is everything Jesse's not.
It's all about the quinic acid level.
Gail is a real chemist, almost an equal to Walt.
I love the lab because it's all still magic.
The guy's a real brain. Of course, we're probably wondering as we watch this, gee, are Jesse and Walt done? Are they permanently over as partners?
I know a guy that'll wipe this off the planet. No questions asked. I'll call him.
This episode's a big one because we say goodbye to a very old and dear friend.
This is mine just as much as yours. You don't get a gist.
Oh, God.
What?
It's the climax of the episode.
You led him right to us.
Hank's just about to bust Jesse.
Jesse doesn't know he's being tailed by Hank, and there's just this pure panic.
Little does Hank realize that right on the other side of this very thin RV door is Walter White.
So what do we do, man?
So they have to just try and get out of this, and of course, Walt comes up with a plan.
I literally put the script down and said, oh my goodness, I can't believe they came up with this, you know? All the characters in this show are so flawed and they're so frail. And even Hank, who is supposed to be this tough guy, and underneath he's panicking, he's got all these problems. Everybody has an exterior that is not true to who they are.
My writers and I went round and round about doing this in this episode, but we finally said, now's the time. And in this episode, as you see at the very end of this thing, we get rid of the RV. The RV gets turned into little bitty bits of metal, and it has to be done because Hank has tracked Jesse to this RV, and he also realizes that this RV is a meth lab.
They had to get rid of the evidence, so they paid somebody on the slide to crush it. So we had to go buy a different motorhome, identical, coloring, size, everything, and then we crushed it. So they kind of blended in 3 different motorhomes. They were outside the one as it was getting crushed. They had this one there, and then they would come back on stage and shoot the interior of Walt and Jesse having their conversation with Hank outside trying to get inside.
In this episode, Gus Fring, the very good businessman / drug kingpin that Walt is now working for in season 3, is in kind of a tough spot politically. He's got these 2 cousins who desperately want to not only kill Walter White, but chop him into little tiny bits with a big shiny axe.
No van a matar a Walter White.
Gus needs Walt right now. He needs him to cook. He needs his super lab up and running. So he does a politically very brilliant maneuver here.
Como muestra de respeto, digo que sí.
He says, this is my territory. DEA agents are usually off limits because we don't want to start a war, but you know what? I respect you guys so much that I'm going to give you a DEA agent, the guy who actually pulled the trigger on your cousin Tuco.
El nombre de la gente es Hank Schrader.
In this moment, we're thinking, oh hell, this is going to end badly. And we're also realizing something new about Gus, that he is really not necessarily the mild-mannered, kinder, gentler meth kingpin that we perhaps thought he was.
Que su muerte les satisfazca.
Hey, you got nothing on me, yo. All right, you can call my lawyer, Saul Goodman.
This episode opens with a bang. Hank is very angry at the way he's been tricked at the end of the junkyard scene last episode.
He thinks it's obviously me that made the phone call.
Hey, you hear me? I got nothing to say. I told you can call my...
He just takes his aggression and anger out on Jesse.
How'd you do it? Who you working with?
You can't do this when you're a DEA agent, and he feels instantly bad about it. He himself calls the ambulance for this kid.
He can't deal with his job anymore.
This episode is about Hank's career hanging by a thread.
I'm just not the man I thought I was. Episode 307, at its core, I think it's about marital love. It's about loyalty. It's about 2 people who really, really love each other and are there for each other when things really go bad.
Your scumbag brother-in-law is finished.
Jesse just keeps getting knocked down, and he has nothing. Walt has betrayed him, his lawyer has betrayed him, and now Walt's brother-in-law just kicked the shit out of him.
I will haunt his crusty ass forever.
And so he's gonna try and do whatever he can in his power to take revenge and take down the DEA.
I don't want a monkey. I want you.
Oh, gee, thanks. Well, not interested.
Also, this episode is about Jesse just being so angry and bitter and hating Walt for all these terrible situations that Walt has put him into, at least in Jesse's mind.
I think he sees a lost boy inside of Jesse.
$1.5 million each.
He starts to feel and think of him as this unwanted family member, where as much as you don't have in common or don't even particularly like him, he's still family. And you don't give up on family.
50-50.
Yes, 50-50.
Okay.
He wouldn't mind the $1.5 million, in cash he would get. So he's like, yeah, I'll do it. Because he loves to, that's his world. That's what he knows best.
Shredder.
The shootout that ends this thing is just a slam bang.
Hank, his brother-in-law, is getting closer and closer, sniffing out the truth.
2 men are coming to kill you.
Come again?
They're approaching your car. You have 1 minute.
And gets in trouble for it, for getting so close.
And only survives because he's gotten a secret warning from someone we probably assumed to be Gus.
The Jeep Commander is our character Hank's car. We had to get duplicates of a lot of the parts, including the windshield, because a lot of the action from this came from the back. So we had to configure the back to where it wouldn't physically hurt somebody, but we also could interchange parts.
This one ends big, and I was very proud of it. I love the way Michelle McLaren shot it.
At the end of the day, particularly this season, the Hank character is the only guy who has a moral core.
That's the way it happened. I accept the consequences.
He's the only guy that steps up and says, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to be honest about it. And then he gets, shot to shit.